Washington, D.C. is about to look completely different. We're not talking about a new monument or some politician's vanity project. We're talking about 8 massive construction projects that are literally reshaping the capital of the United States right now. By 2028, the city you think you know will be unrecognizable. And some of these projects? They're going to change how America works. Let's get into it. Project number 1 is something most people have never heard of. But it's arguably the most important infrastructure project happening in the entire country right now. The Long Bridge expansion. Sounds boring, right? It's not. This is the rail bottleneck that's been choking the entire East Coast for over a century, and they're finally fixing it. Here's the problem. From Boston to Florida, has to cross the Potomac River on a bridge built in 1904. One bridge, 2 tracks. That's it. Amtrak, commuter rail, freight trains. Everything squeezes through this single choke point. It's like having the entire interstate highway system go down to 1 lane for 20 miles. The delays are legendary. A freight train breaks down, the whole East Coast rail network backs up like a clogged drain. The Long Bridge has been the joke of American infrastructure for decades. Engineers have been screaming about it since the 1970s. Politicians promised to fix it and then conveniently forgot. But construction finally started in 2023. And by 2028 there will be a second bridge. 2 more tracks. Double the capacity. This matters way more than you'd think. Right now, Amtrak can only run so many trains between DC and New York because of this bottleneck. More tracks means more trains. More trains means more people choosing rail over flying. It also means freight can move faster and cheaper up and down the East Coast. This isn't just about DC. This affects everyone from Maine to Miami. The cost? About $1.9 billion. For a bridge. But here's the thing. That bottleneck costs the economy way more than that every single year in delays and lost productivity. So yeah, expensive, but probably worth it. And it's either going to revitalize one of the city's poorest areas or become a textbook case of gentrification gone wrong, depending on who you ask. The Buzzard Point development and the Audi Field transformation. Buzzard Point used to be an industrial wasteland. Warehouses, concrete plants, the kind of place where you don't go unless you're lost or up to something illegal. Then DC United, the city's soccer team, built a stadium there in 2018. Audi Field, nice stadium, middle of nowhere. And shockingly, for once they weren't lying. Right now there are 7 major buildings going up around that stadium. High-rise apartments, office buildings, retail space, restaurants. By 2028, Buzzard Point is supposed to be a completely new neighborhood. We're talking 7,500 residential units, 1.6 million square feet of office space, and enough retail to turn it into an actual destination, instead of that place where the stadium is. The scale is massive. This is the largest single neighborhood transformation in DC in decades. The investment? Over $3 billion in private development. The city is kicking in money for infrastructure, new roads, improved metro access, parks along the waterfront. But here's where it gets controversial. Southeast DC is predominantly black, working class, and has been neglected by the city for generations. Now suddenly there's billions being poured in. But it's not for the people who live there. It's luxury apartments, high-end restaurants, office space for tech companies. The existing residents can't afford any of it. The city promises affordable housing requirements, job training programs, community benefits. Whether that actually happens or whether this becomes another neighborhood where the original residents get pushed out by skyrocketing rents, we'll see by 2028. Urban development is messy, and DC has a pretty terrible track record on this stuff. Project 3, the Union Station expansion. You know, it's beautiful and also a complete disaster. It's a Booms Arts masterpiece. It's also way too small for the number of people trying to use it. The main hall is gorgeous. The actual train platforms? Outdated, confusing, and dangerous when they're crowded. They're adding 8 new tracks, rebuilding all the platforms, expanding the concourse, adding better connections to metro and buses, and completely overhauling the passenger experience. The goal is to triple capacity by 2040, but the first phase finishes in 2028. This matters because Union Station isn't just a DC station. It's the second busiest train station in the entire country after New York Penn Station. Over 5 million people use it every year. When it's constrained, the entire Amtrak system suffers. More capacity here means better service everywhere on the East Coast. The project also includes something nobody's talking about. They're building a new underground bus facility. Right now, inner-city buses like Greyhound and Megabus use a terrible outdoor setup that's basically a parking lot. The new facility will be underground, climate-controlled, with proper platforms and waiting areas. It sounds minor, but millions of people take buses to and from DC. Making that experience less miserable is actually a big deal. Cost: $10 billion total. The 2028 phase is about $2.5 billion. The money is coming from federal grants, Amtrak, local DC funds, and probably some creative accounting nobody wants to examine too closely. But it's happening. Construction is underway. By 2028, Union Station will actually work like a modern transportation hub instead of a beautiful building with a train problem. Project 4, the Southwest Waterfront Transformation. If you haven't been to DC recently, you missed one of the most dramatic neighborhood changes in the city's history. The wharf development opened in phases starting in 2017. Hotels, apartments, concert venues, all along the Washington Channel waterfront. Phase 2 finished in 2022. By 2028, Phase 3 will be complete, and the entire Southwest waterfront will be unrecognizable from what it was a decade ago. This area used to be sketch, parking lots, a sad fish market that smelled like exactly what you'd expect, empty streets after dark. Now it's one of the hottest neighborhoods in the city. The development added 3.6 million square feet of new construction. That's hotels, apartments, offices, retail and entertainment venues. There's a music venue that books major acts. There are piers with boats you can rent. There are more restaurants than anyone can keep track of. Phase 3, finishing up by 2028, adds the final pieces. More residential towers, the completion of the park system along the water, and better connections to the rest of the city. The entire development cost about $3.6 billion. All private money. The city's contribution was mostly infrastructure and tax breaks. Is it a good thing? Depends. It's beautiful. It's active. People actually use it. But it's also expensive. The apartments aren't for normal people. The restaurants aren't cheap. And the neighborhood that was there before. There's a tension in DC between wanting nice things and preserving affordability. The wharf is very much on the nice things side. Project 5 is something that sounds impossibly ambitious, and also absolutely necessary. The DC Metro expansion and rehabilitation. The Metro DC's subway system is simultaneously one of the best transit systems in America, and also falling apart. The trains are old, the infrastructure needs work, and whole sections of the system shut down regularly for maintenance. By 2028, Metro is supposed to finish its massive rehabilitation program. They're replacing track, upgrading signals, fixing escalators that have been broken since the Reagan administration, and most importantly, buying new trains. The old 7000 series trains, being phased out after safety issues. The new 8000 series, coming online through 2028. There's also expansion happening. The Purple Line, a light rail system connecting Maryland's suburbs, is supposed to open in 2027. It's years behind schedule and way over budget, but it's actually getting built. This will be the first major expansion of rail transit in the DC area in decades. The cost is staggering. Metro's capital improvement program through 2028 is about $15 billion. That's federal money, state money from Maryland and Virginia, and DC funds all mixed together. Where's all that money going? To make the system stop catching fire, mostly. Metro has had a rough decade. There have been deaths, derailments, and enough bad press to make people avoid it. The rebuild is essential if DC wants to function as a city. Will it work? Parts of Metro are already better than they were 5 years ago. New trains are cleaner and more reliable. Some stations have been renovated and look great. But Metro has decades of deferred maintenance to catch up on. By 2028, it should be noticeably better. Great? That might take longer. Project 6. The redevelopment of RFK Stadium and the surrounding campus. RFK Stadium is a concrete monster from 1961. It used to host the Washington football team before they moved. It hosted DC United before they got their own stadium. Now, it's basically abandoned, a 46,000-seat stadium, sitting empty in a prime location east of the capital. The city and the federal government, RFK, sits on federal land. This has been fighting for years over what to do with it. Finally, there's movement. The plan is to tear down RFK, all 190,000 tons of concrete and steel, and redevelop the 190-acre campus into something useful. Mixed-use development, housing, parks, maybe a new smaller stadium for DC United or concerts. The demolition starts in 2026. By 2028, the site should be cleared and new construction beginning. This is huge for DC. That's 190 acres of prime real estate less than 2 miles from the capital. If they do it right, it could be an incredible neighborhood. If they screw it up, it'll be a cautionary tale for decades. The city is talking about affordable housing requirements, green space, connections to nearby neighborhoods. Whether that actually happens or whether it becomes luxury condos and Whole Foods, TBD. The complication is that everyone wants something different. Some people want a new stadium to lure an NFL team back. Others want maximum housing. Environmentalists want it to be mostly parkland. Preservationists want to save parts of the old stadium for historical reasons. Getting all these groups to agree on anything is DC politics at its finest, meaning incredibly frustrating and slow. But the demolition is happening. RFK is coming down. By 2028, that eyesore will be gone and something new will be rising. What exactly? We'll find out. Project 7, the Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge replacement and the surrounding development. The old Frederick Douglass Bridge was a metal truss bridge from 1950 that looked like it might collapse any day. The new bridge opened in 2021, and it's stunning. Cable-stayed design, wide enough for pedestrians and bikes, built to last a century. But the bridge is just the start. The entire area around both ends of the bridge is being redeveloped. On the DC side, there's the St. Elizabeth's East development. This is the old federal mental hospital campus. Massive historic buildings on hundreds of acres. The Department of Homeland Security moved their headquarters there, which was controversial but brought jobs. Now they're adding housing, retail, and parks. By 2028, the St. Elizabeth's campus should be a functioning mixed-use neighborhood, instead of a half-abandoned hospital. On the other side of the bridge, in Anacostia, there's the Reunion Square development. This is 7 acres right at the bridge landing, being turned into apartments, retail, and community space. The goal is to knit Anacostia back into the rest of the city. For decades, the river was a dividing line. The new bridge and the development around it are supposed to change that. Total investment in the bridge and surrounding development is over $2 billion. The bridge itself was about $441 million. The rest is private and public money for the neighborhood projects. By 2028, this whole area should look completely different. The question, again, is who benefits? Now there's investment, but will it help the existing residents or just bring in new ones who can afford higher rents? DC has promised community benefits, job training, affordable housing. Whether they deliver is the story. Project 8, and this is the one that might actually change how the federal government works. The FBI headquarters relocation. The current FBI building, the J.T. Edgar Hoover Building on Pennsylvania Avenue, is one of the ugliest buildings in America. Brutalist concrete fortress, built in the 1970s, looks like a supervillain's lair, and also falling apart. The FBI has wanted to leave for years. The plan is to move FBI headquarters to either Maryland or Virginia. The exact location is still being fought over politically. And to demolish the Hoover Building. The site, prime real estate in downtown DC, would be redeveloped into something that doesn't make tourists cry when they see it. By 2028, the new FBI headquarters should be under construction if not complete, and plans for the old site should be finalized. This is a massive deal. We're talking about moving 11,000 FBI employees out of downtown DC. The new facility will be huge, secure, modern, everything the current building isn't. The cost is estimated at about $3.3 billion for the new headquarters. The old site is worth potentially $1 billion or more for redevelopment. The politics are intense because Maryland and Virginia both want the facility. More specifically, they want the economic boost of 11,000 federal employees and the thousands of contractors that come with an FBI headquarters. For DC, losing the FBI presence downtown is a mixed bag. Those employees spend money in the city, support restaurants and shops, but the current building is terrible for downtown. It's a fortress that breaks up the street grid. Pedestrians have to walk around it. It generates no street life. Almost anything built there would be better for the city. What replaces it? Probably mixed-use development. Offices, retail, maybe a hotel. The federal government will want some revenue from selling or leasing the land. But there's also talk about requirements for affordable housing, public space, even potentially a new museum. By 2028, we should know what's planned even if construction hasn't started yet. These 8 projects represent about $30 billion of investment in Washington, D.C. That's money going into transportation, housing, economic development, and federal facilities. By 2028, the city will function differently. More people will be able to take trains up and down the East Coast. New neighborhoods will exist where there were parking lots and warehouses. The metro might actually work reliably. But here's the thing: nobody likes to talk about. All this development is happening while large parts of DC still struggle. Wards 7 and 8, east of the river, have higher poverty rates than the national average. Schools in some neighborhoods are falling apart. Homelessness is a visible problem downtown despite all the construction. DC is simultaneously a city being transformed by billions in investment, and a city where many residents aren't seeing any benefit. The projects happening by 2028 will change the physical landscape. Whether they change the lived reality for everyone in the city, that's the question that matters. These projects are happening. The money is committed. Construction is underway. Deadlines are real. By 2028, Washington, D.C. will look different, function different, and hopefully be a better city for the people who live and work there. Not just the tourists and the politicians, but everyone. If you want more videos breaking down infrastructure and development projects, hit subscribe. More coming soon.